my name is ECC Super or Heinrich, whichever one you prefer. Um, and today I am doing a quick little recording to cover a few things that I've done during the stream of a few days ago. So, the project in question is a platformer that allows you to move using physics, obviously, very basic Unity physics. We also have projectiles, which the objects die after being spawned for a while, and there it goes. I also have melee, which is currently not based off of which direction I'm facing with the mouse, but is based off of the direction the character is physically facing. I can change it. In fact, let me make a note of that. Alright, that is that. Um, but this is a basic system, very basic system, and this is a enemy unit. It's currently set to ranged, so if I move in range, you'll see it's starting to try and attack me. I can try and time its attacks. Oops, and I'm dead. Well, that just happened. I don't know. What did I set my health at? Oh, I set it to 3. Yeah, okay, that makes sense. Um, but the enemy AI is set up in a very specific manner, so if I get too close, it will attempt to run away from me. Now, it's a little bit laggy, and I think I know it's what is causing that, so let me just make another note real quick. Alright, so with that being said, also I can also set the enemy to melee, and change a few things. I want that to be 5. Attack distance is 2. Attack interval is 2. Detection distance is 5. Yeah, everything else looks good. And for the enemy, it's currently aware of me. There you go. And you will see. Oh, it just killed me. But of course, you can also kill the enemy. So let me just set the player health correctly. Hit play again. Right now, the enemy is just set to 1 health. It's a very basic enemy. So this is the very base system of a platformer. There's more I can do to expand this. So I was thinking, let's get to fixing those few things that I notice is a problem. So let's start with the player model not facing the direction of the pointer. Okay, so what we have here is the direction or the angle of the shot is being calculated here. And here's the shoot direction, which is reliant on world position to vector to transform dot position normalized. So here is where I get the screen to world position from the mouse pointer, and let me take a look at what I can do here. Camera.main, screen to world point, mouse to screen position, and so what I need to do is I need to call this earlier, and then I can make use of this. So this can also be called earlier. So let's do that. So I'm going to grab this, move it to here in the top, and move input needs to be move input, but here is where things need to change. Instead of making use of move input, I need to make use of shoot direction. So because down here I'm checking in which direction the sprite is flipped. The direction in which the sprite is flipped determines which direction the melee attack will happen. So this I need to take, and once again we're going to plop it right there. That should clear all redundancies, with the only difference being that we're tracking all the mouse the entire time, as opposed to just every time when we press fire 2. But that's fine. So here we don't want to use move input anymore. We want to use shoot direction, and is shoot direction dot x. Yeah, there we go. And here we want to use shoot direction dot x again. Alright, so now if I go back here and I play, not exactly doing what I was hoping it to do. Okay, so this is what we have. We are doing this check, which is the check we do for shoot direction, which is necessary for the projectile script, but because we're already calculating with shoot direction the mouse position, we can use the shoot direction to flip the sprite, meaning that our character will always look in the direction of the pointer. Meaning that we can no longer shoot it from behind, which is a bit weird to think about. But yeah, so now that we're automatically doing this flipping, both of these attacks will now happen in the direction at what we're looking. So if I quickly show you the demo of this, so as you can see here, that pressing A and W, or even the arrow keys, does not trigger X or Y, but moving the pointer does. And now if I left click and left click, it's attacking in the direction of the pointer. And same still for our projectile. So that solves the player. Alright, next up, let's focus on the enemy AI. So, there was a problem with the enemy AI script where if it is set to melee, if melee was set off, and I was to stand against it, then and only then would it execute the run script. That is a problem. We want it to run the moment the player is in range. So, let's take a look at that. So this is now what we have. We now have timer and move closer, acting outside of the timer check on both sides, and to give our NPC or our enemy the upper hand a little bit, we divided attack interval by 2 and assigned that to timer, which means when it does come time to it wanting to attack us, it will attack much faster because timer has been set to this instead of 0. And then here it just sets it to 0, which is the base time for attacking. So let's just look at that in action. The enemy is currently set to melee. It runs towards me. It attacks. Oops, that wasn't supposed to happen. So if I get closer, he runs towards me and he attacks. I can still kill it. And if I set my enemy to ranged, I don't know why that happened. It's because I'm being an idiot. There you go. If I get too close, he will attempt to run away. Now, we're now going to deal with this part next. This part where the enemy has the ability to run off the edge. So, we need a few things. I'm going to get my paint. Let's draw a few objects real quick. There's our platform. Alright, so this is our enemy unit, and these are his eyes. So let's quickly make a thing here. So these are eyes. Now, the next part that we're going to try and tackle is what are the eyes trying to see? There you go. So, let's assign a few variables real quick. This is R1. R2, R1, R2, R3, and R4. Alright, so Rn, because we're going to be making use of a little bit of math logic here, is set equal to raise. So R1 and R2 is looking for player slash NPC slash enemy, and R3 and R4 are equal to ground. So if let's grab the notepad. If R3 and so let's do this. If R3 and R4 what? If R3 and R4 does not return ground, then vector then rigid body dot x is equal to 0. So this will make sure that the velocity of rigid body x is 0 specifically. And then we also need to do if R1 and R4 returns, if R1 and R4 returns player, NPC, or enemy, then once again rigidbody.x is equal to 0. So what we need is 4 offsets, and this will act as the 4 positions of the rays, and then we need, let me just make this look a little bit better. So we need 4 offsets, and that is the 4 positions of the rays. We need 4 rays in 4 directions. This ray 1, so ray 1 and ray 2 for entities, and ray 3 and Ray 4 for ground. So what this will allow us is an enemy that would be able to detect if it has collided with with an entity to prevent it from shoving characters off of the map, and then this is to prevent it from running off of a map. But let's say we want to disable the rays, so we're also going to need um, two bulls, one for entity disabled, and one and one for ground disabled. So if I say entity disabled, I mean entity check disabled and ground check disabled. Alright, so that's what we need next. Alright, after some long meddling around, I managed to get some things to work, so I'm going to set this thing to ranged so that you can see it. If I start chasing it, it stops once it's at the edge, but it can still attack me. And if I turn on melee, you'll see that it doesn't entirely touch me. It stops just before it touches me, which means it cannot apply more forces to me. Now, I would like the same logic to the player, because I don't like that the player can just push the enemy. So, now that we have the enemy sorted, let me show you the code. So, I had to move a few things around. First of all, I had to set this on its own. So both this one, move closer, and move away, are now their own logic. Move away still has the attack logic as part of this, purely because I want the AI to be able to attack whether it can move or not. So that's why that is there. You'll also see that I'm doing the can move test first. Then I'm doing the check for the if it is outside of attack distance, then it would attempt to move closer. Also checking the timer. Otherwise, it would freeze other than its Y velocity, meaning that it will not push the player, and the timer will start and it will start attacking. Same here. We check if the player is in less than ideal attack distance, then it attempts to move away, and it sets the timer to that, and then otherwise it will just attack the player. Um, so, and this is whether it can move or not. And then here is the if it cannot move, it attacks anyways. So if it can move, it attacks. If it can't move, it attacks anyways. So this is kind of the idea behind a ranged character. Here it's a little bit different. It has to be within range to be able to deal a melee attack. Thus, it will always try to execute move closer. And if it was able to execute move closer, then it would attack. But in this particular case, it would only attack if can move is false. So that is the enemy AI currently done. Alright, so now that we finally have the enemy unit following the rule sets that we've just provided it, we can now move on to the player. And the player is going to be very basic because the player, I need to detect the enemy object, and once it's detected the enemy object, based on whether it is left or right, it's going to disable the player from being able to move in that direction. Alright, after some finagling, I was eventually able to get to this point where, as you can see, I am using a overlap capsule, using ray detection, because this was what I used initially. I guess I could rename this to just overlap detection. And this is the height of the capsule, and then we have capsule direction is vertical and from the enemy layer. So this part I've noticed, if I hover over this, that it is not in there, but for some reason it is detecting this. Well, it's not making use of this, but if I remove this, then it doesn't want to work. So if I quickly remove this part from this, you'll see that this suddenly goes red. So it needs that, yet for some reason it doesn't make use of that. So we had to add in an additional check here for enemy, and so this is the ray. Well, it used to be Raycast, and it's now just Ray 1. I can rename that as well to enemy overlap. And then we first check if enemy overlap is equal to null, and then we check if the tag is enemy. Then we check as a greater or lower or less, and we set them accordingly. Otherwise, both of those are true, and here it is in practice. And as you can see, it stops. There is this, where every time the enemy attacks, I budge a little bit forward, which is a bit strange, but if I set the enemy to a ranged character, and there he goes. So this behavior is from Unity built in. There are checks I can put in for that. I actually do want to change this to 1, and let's see what it does. Interesting. Set it to melee. I want to see what it does. Interesting. Back here. Let's do 0.5. Let's see what it does. Right. For enemy as well, I would like to set this to 0.01, and then for this capsule, 0.01. Interesting. But that's what I have for now, and it's it's okay because everything else is still in there. I can still attack. I can still do melee and range. I can still jump around and do things. The enemy can still jump around and do things. Um, and yeah, I think that is the base of everything that I wanted to work on. Um, I'm going to be doing the rest of this in a stream, in a live stream, after I've plotted out the next steps of what I wanted to do. So, yeah, with that being said, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you guys again next time.